Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and good night, wherever you are in the world. This is Sean Donahoe, and welcome to another Ask Sean session. Now, we have got some very cool stuff we're going to be sharing here with you tonight. Again, we're going to be covering a topic that has been requested by members, and I've had a few questions about outsourcing because in previous Ask Sean's and training webinars and everything else, we talk about different ways that we build our team, what we've done, how we basically free up our time and outsource everything as much as we can. So I've had some questions about how do you go about that? How do you get into that? How do you scale that up? How do you make it affordable? How do you make it profitable? And absolutely everything else. Now, one thing I want to do before we get started, because I see a few more people rolling in here, is find out is the Don is saying the audio is okay. Can I get a scale of 1 to 10, the volume and everything? Make sure everything's cool. Okay, Alan's saying 5 by 5. I appreciate it. And an 8. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. And 8. Okay, great. Well, that's good. That's good. I'll try and keep it at that all evening. Yesterday, I was doing a live broadcast, and it didn't turn. The volume was nowhere near where I would like it to be, and we kept trying to boost microphones and do all sorts of stuff like that. But I don't know. We uh, we had a few issues there, but I do have a very special guest with me here this evening. Is my wife, and she has a microphone, and as we're going through this evening, and we can. I'm sure she'll make a couple. We'll actually have a couple of little back and forths because, again, Tamara is very much involved with our outsourcing and our teams and everything else, and has more than a few fork-based stories. Which I won't. We won't share too many gory details, but we've had some ups, we've had some downs, and we've had some problems. So I'm going to basically share here with you this evening, guys, is a lot of that, how we do what we do. And Tam, just do a quick audio check with you and see if the crowd can hear you.
Hi guys, can you hear me okay? I'm not breaking any eardrums here.
4 by 5.
4 out of 5, I can speak up. Is that better than it usually is?
A little low. Yeah, her microphone is not like my broadcast microphone, but it's not too bad. I've
But
got
it's
my
not as low as
headset.
it usually is.
No,
Okay, good.
it's not from across the desk. So good.
Okay, cool. Maybe this will work better for us.
Okay, great. So, okay, outsourcing. Why would you outsource when you can do it yourself? Well, there's a couple of schools of thought, and I'm going to share some of my experiences. When I first started um, doing this, again, I had to learn everything myself, and I was determined to do everything myself, come up with squeeze pages and build sites and learn the coding and everything else. And I'll be quite honest, it was a monumental pain in the ass. However, it was good to learn all those skills so that I could then later on, as time got more and more precious, we had to consider okay, I am spread so thin, I'm working 16 hours a day and I need 32 hours in a day. There's only so much you can do by yourself. And also, there's many skills which when you get you're building a skill, it takes time and you can do a half-assed job. And I'll be quite honest, my graphic skills when I first started, just as a prime example, well, I won't have my wife comment. I've made reference to my very first website, which was built on a GeoCities, but my graphic skills were less than extraordinary. And now, Tam, how many years experience would you say when we first met? You had quite a few years of experience in the print industry and graphics. I mean,
That was in
99.
99, so probably since 84.
That sounds about right. And
Well,
so
I started at 14, so.
start them young. That's how you get it. But the funny thing was that Tam had already had years and years and years of experience. I had zero. And I was very proud of what I achieved, but it sucked. And my lovely wife very delicately and very um, tactfully dropped a hint of how ugly my website was, but she did it in a very diplomatic way, which I thank her for till this day, because I was very proud of what I did there. Now, admittedly, there was a lot of coding behind that more than the graphics, but hey, that was cool. I was embedding audio before people embedded audio and stuff like that. And I had MIDI files because I was actually a musician. Funnily enough, I used to one of my first forays into freelancing myself was the fact that I actually did music for computer games on the Amiga and stuff like that. So I was, so I had a lot of my stuff was based on, okay, for the old timers here, MIDIs and sample sequencing before everything else that we've got now. This was kind of your music file had to be under 50K, which was a nightmare to do anything with real sound samples to do that. So, anyway, I digress. So, I was very, very proud of this, but it was apparent to me that I seriously lacked some of the skills I was going to need. Now, through osmosis, I learned a lot of these skills through Tamara to the point, I mean, okay, this is where I set myself up. Would you say now, Tam, that I'm a reasonably good graphics artist when I need to be?
Oh, you're a good graphics artist now. Very good. Different style than mine. Very, very clean compared to some of mine, but it's a different style, but it's great.
Okay,
It's not a problem.
see, I keep her. I keep her now. You know, she's not fired.
Well, now sometimes I'm jealous of you.
But the amusing thing there is, guys, that again, it's taken me years to kind of get to where I am right now. Now, if I had known then what I know now, I wouldn't have learned a damn thing. I would have outsourced that right from the start because it's a skill set that I've had to acquire and it takes a long time to master any one skill. Now, if I consider, say for example, there's a very famous, and I can't remember, I think was it I can't remember who said this, but there's a phrase that says that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in any one area. Now, why can't I select it? Okay. Why is the brush not able to be selected? That makes no bloody sense. Okay, so I was just saying I was great at Photoshop, and now nothing bloody works. Oh, I'm in the program, but the program is not in me. Um, did I have a dialogue screen up? Oh, yes, I do. I have a dialogue screen up, and that's why it was doing that. Dumbass. Okay, so there's a very famous phrase that says it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert. It takes 1,000 hours to become proficient, 100 hours to become okay, and 10 hours to break it. So I'm paraphrasing a very famous productivity study. But if you think about this, if you take 10 hours and your time is worth, say, this is just kind of cost analysis, $25 an hour. Even if you say, let's keep it cheap. Say you value your time at, say, just $10 an hour. Okay, that's minimum wage. 10 hours to learn even the basics of how to do something, which for some people is a working day, that's $100. Okay, even at just above minimum wage. Okay, 100 hours to do something, it's $1,000, and so on and so forth. $10,000 to become pretty damn good in terms of your time, and then $100,000 in estimated time to become an absolutely top level expert. You okay over there? You drowning?
Coffee.
But if you think about this for a second, your time is precious. And what can you be doing with that time? Well, if you think about this, I would much rather find an expert who's got a few thousand hours on the clock, even if they're pretty darn good. I'm investing in their skill set for a fraction of the price. If I have, for example, I'll give you some common examples of things that we may outsource. Logo, now we do a lot of this in house because I am very lucky. I'm married to a award-winning graphics artist, but I'm just giving you an example of a project. Let's say that we're talking programming, actually. Let's do that. Now, again, programmers, when I'm doing, when I used to do web programming, I would charge $150 an hour, uh, anywhere up to $250 an hour for database stuff. Again, I was bloody expensive, and people would pay that no problem at all, especially when I'm doing consulting stuff. Consulting, that's $500 to $1,000 an hour because were paying me for my expertise. But let's talk about just, say, web coding right now. If I've got a small project, I want to get a plugin built, say, for example, I would go out and I would find someone that has. Now, imagine this: you've got people who are good, but they've got a team of 10 people. So you're basically getting 10 people at this level to build your project for you. Well, great. That's times 10. So $10,000 times 10 is back up to $100,000 worth of time invested to learn the skills you need. And 10 people, I mean, one of our teams, for example, in Pakistan right now, is 10 developers, and it's a team of 10. And I will give them a project and they will build me a plugin, just to give you an idea. Um, Say, for example, I wanted a plugin built from scratch, and I told them, okay, my budget is $500. Okay. It might take them anywhere from 100 to 200 hours, depending on the plugin and project, of course. Maybe even more, maybe even less. And this budget might flex up and down, but imagine having to then go ahead, learn the programming language, learn the development, go through all the headaches, the hassles, the falls, the mistakes of trying to do that, and then coming out with a product that you can actually market and sell. It's a nightmare. You don't want to do it. So, this is where outsourcing comes in, basically filling the holes of your skill sets that you need, but you don't have to learn. One of the big mistakes that most people make is trying to be everything to everybody all the time. It's great to dabble to get an understanding of what's involved, but as entrepreneurs, we are not working in our business. We should never be working in our business. We should be working on our business. So you can see here, if I wanted to become, and although I am an expert in PHP programming, um, I could build all of my own plugins. And I build a lot of plugins, don't get me wrong. I build plugins just because I want something quick and I can knock it out real quick. But if I'm doing something commercial now, I don't build any of my plugins. I don't build them myself. I come up with a project, I come up with a project brief, description of what's involved, and then I go to a team and say, here's the project, here's the budget, I want it done by this date. And I usually, just a quick tip, if you're getting something done, tell them you want it at least 2 weeks to 3 weeks early. That way, if there's any delays, you're still on time. Quick hint number one. In fact, what I do with a lot of people with programming, and if my programmers are watching, I'm going to deny any knowledge of this at all, but I tell them I want it a month ahead of when it's actually due. Okay. That way, I've got plenty of time to test it, kick it back, rebuild it, redo everything, and come back with a finished project. So keep that in mind. So, again, outsourcing gives you a huge advantage. You get skill set that you don't have, you get time to do other things, and these are very, very valuable. These are worth more than money because you can't have enough time, and it takes a long time to develop the skills. So a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I can't afford outsourcing," and that depends on your individual situation. If you want to do things yourself, hey, absolutely fine. When you're first starting, do that. Absolutely. And we've got a very big team comparatively, not compared to some places, but again, we have a very organized skill set team. And what you really need to do when you're first considering outsourcing is do basically an SSC, a skill set chart. Put down here what skills you have and what you're prepared to do. Then on the other side, it's kind of like in the corporate world. I can't remember the name of it. Over here, we've got different names for it in the UK, but basically, it's your strengths versus weaknesses. Look at the skill sets that you don't have, and there's nothing wrong with not having the skill sets. I originally went to school to be I put myself through university to study artificial intelligence. A little bit of a far cry from what I do now, but I'll be quite honest. I know nothing about. I'm trying to think of an. Okay, this sounds bad. I'm trying to think of an area where I know nothing about. Um, oh my God, Tam, I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of a thing I don't know, which sounds really arrogant and horrible. I sound like Sheldon out of Big Bang Theory. Cosmetology. Okay, fair enough. I know nothing about makeup, and I'm joking. I know nothing about buying shoes. I know nothing about um, I don't know weird stuff like that. I have no problem admitting I don't know. Go ahead, Tam. You look like you're going to say something. Oh, she's almost clamping her hands over her mouth.
I'm not saying nothing.
But again, it's there's nothing wrong with in your business identifying the areas where you have no experience. To think, okay, well, that if I can find someone who can do this, then great. And when you're first starting, you want to find someone who has a broad spectrum of skills. They don't have to be experts in any one area, but it's good if they have, for example, a little bit of Photoshop experience, some good web design skills. They can write copy or at least articles. Maybe they know a little bit of systems integration and stuff like that. It helps to have a broad set of skills because you ideally are a manager. You want to basically dictate what other people are going to do rather than you being a slave to your own business. When you're first starting, like I say, it's great to have those broad skill sets to get the ball rolling. But say, for example, you've identified, okay, you may have seen this diagram I do um, before of where you want to be versus where you are. And let me just actually change that. You are here. So if you have a kind of idea of what you want to do, how you want to get there, then guess what? If you know, for example, you wanted to release a product, you wanted to release it on ClickBank, you're all good to go. Okay, you know that you want what you want to do, but you don't maybe have, except for the fact you're in the inner circle and we give you as many of those skills as possible, but maybe you don't know what it takes to create the product, set up the JV funnel and everything else, and set up wish list. Well, guys, you can go find someone right now who is absolutely dirt cheap that will help you set that up. They can, and there's many types of outsourcers. There are fixed price and there are hourly. Actually, there's three types. There's also what we have on our team, which is a lot of full-time outsourcers. In fact, we have people in Pakistan, the Philippines, US, UK as well. Oh yeah, we do actually. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, okay, we got so many people on our team. I actually don't know where half of them are half the time. And Tam's absolutely right. We do have them based in the UK. We've got also Korea as well and stuff like that. So it's very very cool. Oh, and also India. So we have people all over the world that are part of our team, and they help us out because, for example, Pakistan, I've got my coders and customer care. Philippines, micro tasks, as we call them. US, we've got, again, customer care, uh, developers, writers, copywriters, everything else. UK, customer care. India, developers. So we got people all over the place that working for us full time, part time, and so on and so forth. But you don't have to start with the expectation of you've got a monthly fee in that you're hiring someone full time. Now, you could just say, okay, I've got one project. This project I estimate is going to take 10 hours. Great. I'll go find someone who charges, $7 an hour as an example, or I'll negotiate a fixed price of $100 because people will bid on a project that maybe you say that's going to be 20 hours. Well, that's $5 an hour. The people will do that. Um, there's all sorts of different things. Say, for example, I'll just give a random example. Say, for example, you wanted 10 squeeze pages, okay? 10 squeezes, each with squeezes, each with 10 reports rebranded. Okay, I'm just going to give you an example of a project you can do right now, which means 10 covers. Again, I'm breaking it down. 10 squeeze pages, and that means you've also got to set up 10 lists, or maybe you're putting them into some sort of automated funnel. Okay, I'm just kind of ballparking as I go here. So I got 10 squeeze pages, 10 reports. Maybe I actually want to do some split tests. Again, because when you're having other people do it, you can actually expand your projects beyond what you actually might think. So 10 rebrands, which means 10 covers, 10 lists, or just tracking into one list. I actually may segment. Maybe I've got 10 different things. And then into some sort of paid funnel, maybe you're going to promote the upcoming Inner Circle affiliate program. So you want to pump people into the $1 trial so you can get your 50% commission or something like that. Fine. Either way works. Okay. But maybe this is a project you would like to do, but you're like, oh my God, I wouldn't know where to start, where to begin, what to do. Fine. Here's how you would break this down. So I'm going to basically, let me just take this and shrink it a little bit so that we got this minimized. So this is our base idea for a project. So how would we break this down? Okay, well, first I need to go find someone that can build, basically has got web design and specifically squeeze page experience. If I'm doing this, I'd like to do it on Optimize Press 2. So that's another skill I need. So I need to break down what skills are required. Then also, if they've got graphic skills, great, because I'm going to need some covers done. We're going to need some Optimize Press 2, but I know, I'm a member of the Inner Circle. I have the cover creator. So do I actually need that? Well, I'll need some base graphics to then convert into that. Okay, fine. If they've got some copy experience, great, because I need headlines and everything else for those squeeze pages. But okay, they could do that. So I've got some basic skills here. Okay, now what? Well, they'll need some Aweber or Rapid Mailer or the ability to learn how to set up autoresponders. They better actually write that, the follow-ups. And then on the thank you page, they also need some sales page experience, because we'll take them once they're signed up to get their download. Great. Well, then we'll take them over to the Inner Circle pitch page or something like that. I'm just using that as an example. But that would get me where I want to be, and then I want to promote it. So I might need some SEO, some Facebook buying, and stuff like that. So again, I'm starting to think outside and expand. What do I need? Well, there's a lot of skills invested in all this. But when you think about it, if you can find someone who's got Optimize Press 2, writing experience, squeeze page experience, and sales page, they're going to be able to learn everything else, and you're going to be able to either tutor them or get them. They can find out the information to set these things up. It's not actually that much, but again, you think, well, there's a lot of stuff in there. I've got to manage that. So in that case, let me put a budget on it of $100 and expect maybe that I might need $200. But that's going to get me an entire setup done, and boom, I'm good to go. So you then go over to one of um, the outsourcing sites and maybe put up a project. You're not going to find this kind of person on Fiverr. You're going to need to create a listing on somewhere like Odesk or Freelancer. Another site we use, onlinejobs.ph, and that tends to be more in line with um, some of the. Actually, I pulled up a couple of sites here. This is Odesk, for example. And again, this is a very, very powerful um, setup. Hire a lot of people through here. And the cool thing is that this connects you with profiles. So, for example, let's look. Say optimize press 2. I actually did a search for this recently and I hired someone purely because of their optimized press 2 experience, which tells me if they know optimized press, they know squeeze pages, sales pages, they know website development and stuff like that. So I look for the commonalities and then I do a little bit of absolute refinement. Now, um, again, you need to look at what they charge. For example, here, just doing the basic research with or the search without any refinements shows me everything from $22 an hour um, to very, very cheap. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to show you how you find the best workers very quickly. First, you want the best people. Now, I do a lot of my research on Odesk because it gives me the best search tools. So, for example, here, 4.5 and above, if I click that, that takes my group down to 100 people. Okay. Now, out of these, I want to reduce to a maximum of $10 an hour. Never judge a book by its price. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, some of, even for example, these guys that charging $22 an hour will actually work for a lot less. Just because they're saying $22 an hourly rate, if you go into any one of these profiles, you'll get more information. But if you see that they'll do fixed price, you'll see here, for example, in this case, $16 an hour, $5 an hour, six fixed price, $6. They'll do little micro jobs, $3.50 an hour. And that was someone who was charging their base rate was $22 an hour. So don't always judge a book by that hourly rate cover. But you can see this guy has actually worked a lot of jobs, and this is where you really want to go and see what's going on. You want to see what their rating is, their feedback, how many jobs they've worked, how many hours they've worked, and you want to see the feedback. Lots of fives. That's good. That tells me a lot. You can also see their skills, HTML4, WordPress, and not much else outside of that. But you can always usually see a portfolio as well. Now, again, I've got to be careful here because I don't want to reveal all of my team by logging in here. But you can usually, when you log in, you actually get to see their portfolio. So I have to be careful here not to actually do full disclosure of my entire team for privacy purposes here. But you can do all sorts of other refinements as well. So where I might refine down to say 20, this is my kind of general rule of thumb, knowing that people who will say they charge more tend to be higher quality. However, you won't pay that much, okay? Because you can, when I hire people, it's either based on a full-time position, a part-time position, or a one-off project. And for me, a full-time position is anywhere from 40 to 60 hours. I've even hired people who've done 80 hours a week and kept them busy, to say the least. But that's working 6 days a week and long hours as well. So again, looking in regards to this, you can also do any hours billed. I want at least 100 hours where possible, but look at the differences here. Anyone who's worked 1 hour out of this or any hours, that's including people who've never worked on here before, 76 people, but you'll notice people who've worked 73 to 68, that's not much of a difference. So there's people on here who've worked a lot. Again, you're filtering out the lesser candidates, and the people who are dedicated and have done a lot of work. If you're um, getting people who've done a lot of work on here, you usually will have more portfolio pieces to judge, and also more feedback from previous hires. So that's very, very important. And then if you have a geographic preference, then you can refine it down, no problem. Again, South Asia tends to be China and the Philippines. East Asia tends to be like Pakistan. And then you've got obviously Latin America, North America, Europe, and what have you. So let's take it down to, say, um, let's do South Asia, which tends to be the Philippines. And you'll notice that if we go like this, um, okay, I did select South Asia. Okay, so, and it's taking to Pakistan, Bangladesh. So that's India, Pakistan, and stuff like that. But let's take it down to East Asia and take off that one. Okay, and that tends to be, as you see, more of the Philippines and what have you. So again, now every time I talk about outsourcing, I get myself in trouble with this next statement. However, I'm going to make it. I prefer to hire women, okay, because they're more diligent. They have much greater attention to detail, and honestly, a lot more bloody reliable. Now, that being said, 70% of my team is male, and it just happens to be the case that a lot of my team is made up of developers who have a greater tendency to be male. But in terms of stuff that I like, tasks, micro tasks being kind of data entry type stuff and things like that, um, then I tend to be a little more, um, and design work, graphics design. Some of the best designers and honestly the best results have come from my female staff. Um, Men, we just don't cut it. It's just, um, in my experience, especially with different cultures, different nationalities, and things like that. Different countries have different work ethics. They have different work mindsets and things like that. And I've just found that you know, hiring women just tends to give me a little more consistency. And when I have expectations of standards and goals, they tend to hit that mark time and time again. It's just the way it is. So, um, now, with that being said, and actually, Alan is, again, Alan, who's the creator of RCW, works for well, he works in the health sector and hires a lot, and they work with a lot of developers all over the world, and predominantly tends to be a male-dominated world, but it depends on what you want to do. Male developers do tend to work best in the code fields. No disrespect to the fairer of the species, but then again, also for anything that's front end and that you have attention to detail and that may be seen, women tend to take greater pride in their work, depending on less. It doesn't matter what it is; they tend to take greater pride in their work because it's a I don't know, a Tam, help me out here before I put my foot in it. Um, what would you say in regards to? Okay, I'm going to put my foot in it, but no. Just in terms of your experience with our outsourcers, I was wondering what you may think in regards to the battle of the sexes. There, I mean, premise of that. I don't want to touch that question. Okay, she says, I'm not that stupid. I'm not going to touch that question. I can't blame her. But it's one of those touchy subjects. But yeah, just in terms of our team and our experience, um, yeah, we've just had a lot greater experience with hiring women. So for design stuff, in terms of website development, graphics, and everything else, yeah, that is where that kind of falls. So looking, I mean, if I was hiring someone for this project I just mentioned, um, again, we can't help it. We judge by profile pictures a lot, and I'm looking at this crew, and I'm looking at the professionality. Again, you tell so much just by the way they want to present themselves. This gentleman here, this looks like a much more professional gentleman than um, this gentleman here, who I don't know. This looks like a bad Facebook portfolio picture, and you know, again, if you take pride in your appearance and what you're presenting, tends to kind of indicate how seriously you take your work. Again, this gentleman here looks professional, neat, tidy, well lit. I hate to say it. I even judge down to that level. Um, this gentleman just didn't really do anything with his profile pic. Again, I might have to, if I'm desperate, I might give this guy a second look. But again, I take so much. If I'm putting my business on the line in regards to who I'm working with, the way they present themselves tells me a lot about their attitude towards work as well. So it's just another little side thing there. And again, this guy might be the most ninja coder or ninja developer in the world, but the fact that that is his profile picture and the way he presents himself doesn't instill me with a lot of confidence. Um, this lady here, Eloisa, um, it's a blurry picture, but okay, I'll that's a good enough presentation that I'll give it a second look. So these three gentlemen, or these two gentlemen and this lady here, might be the ones I'll then dig into. In fact, let me go into Fernando here and go back. So again, this gentleman's worked. He's got a 5-star rating across the board. 30 jobs worked, 2,000 hours worked on Odesk, and again, give me an idea. I want to see the feedback. And then what I might do is I'll actually post if this guy matches my skill sets that I've already mapped out. I'm setting up basic SEO, Aweber forms, MailChimp, PHP. He can design and code PHP applications. That's interesting. Customize, troubleshoot themes and plugins. Might be a general all around skill set. I can do article writing, editing, and proofreading. So, yeah, a general all around person. Great. Might have a need for someone like this gentleman. So, again, I will then. Odesk requires you that before you contact them, that you invite them to be, for a job. So you want to post a job posting again, just like you were trying to hire someone. You'd say, okay, this is a project for X, requires the skill set of X, 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 and then you find the people and invite them. Now, there's many other people on here that you might not think even matches your profile, but that will contact you if you open up the job publicly. However, what I tend to do is I use this selection process to go through and find someone I think will match based on what I'm seeing, invite them to apply for the job, and then I will set up a time to speak with them on Skype. And again, that's another filtering process. I will usually short about 5 to 10 people, and I'll have my short list of people I think are probably the best match that I hope will contact me. And then what I will do is speak with them on Skype, have a conversation. I'll have some questions about them, what their experience is, and everything else. Boom, boom, boom. And then by the time I've gone through that interview process, I'll know if they're a good match or not. Now, usually for short-term fixed price projects, I'm not too. As long as I think they're going to be able to do the job, great. And I'm not too worried for $100 or $200 product or project, because it'll be done and that's fine. And the good thing with working with Odesk is you put the money into escrow, which means until you're happy with the job that is done and is completed, um, they don't get paid. So that's why using Odesk for something like that is far easier, because the money is held uh, in escrow until the job is complete. Um, the cool thing with that is that freelancer knows that you're going to pay them, the money's standing there waiting for them until they completed the job. So they tend to be a little more motivated to get the job done on time. And if you have specific time constraints, you list that and everything else. Now, um, the other thing is I've got a little notepad here of some other things that we do. You want to clearly define the scope and the schedule for your project. Now, what I mean by that is that when you're setting up a project of some sort and you're looking to hire someone, you need to make sure that you've narrowed down, just like we did just now, the details and what you want them to do. So, although I kind of ballparked it and kind of mapped it out, you want to write that out into a clearly defined what you want done and how. I want to take this product. I want to put it on the squeeze page. I want to use this template or this style. I want to create a split test. So I need 3 variants on each one. And you need to kind of break it down, just like you would be if you're making a cup of coffee. Think about, okay, well, the end result is I want a cup of coffee. But here's the exact process to create it. The more detail you give, the better. Now, I always say, and the process I just showed you is you want to evaluate a service provider like you would hire a full-time employee. That process I just went through there is exactly what I do whether I'm hiring a short-term worker, a part-time worker, or a full-time worker. It makes all the difference in the world. And you need to really make sure that their skill set is a specific experience fit. You want to make sure that those people are going to come on board and that if they do well, you've got someone and a resource you can use later on. There are many resources and outsources I've used in the past that I've hired time and time again. I've had one, for example, from the Philippines that has been with me for over 3 years on and off. And then, basically I'll need her for a short period of time because she's got some experience in one area that I only need every now and then. And I'll just contact her again, say, okay, I need you for another month. And boom, 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 in the background, she'll work away and then minimal supervision, come back, and I know that project is done again. And that makes all the difference in the world when you can have people you can hire time and again just on an as needed basis. Saves you a ton of time, saves you a ton of hassles, and again, it's just as you need it. Now, as I also said, do not choose a vendor based on price. Now, I'll give you an example. Let me go back to our list here. And say, for example, I want to go as cheap as possible, $5. And I've got these guys who are matching. And again, let me try and arrange it. Let me see if I can. They've changed a few things around here where you can arrange it by the cheapest of the cheap. But again, this is unusual. Some people will go really, really cheap just to get your attention. This is a 5-star rated for $3 an hour. So if they do 100 hours for you, that's only $300 for about 2 weeks of work. But let's have a look at this. And I want to see what's going on. Now, I've seen people on here that list their price as $1. I would never hire someone for $1. But this is an interesting setup. Someone who says they're pretty good. Oh, actually, they only scored 32 out of 100 on Photoshop. English spelling 63, so they're doing better there. But it's kind of very low on the WordPress score. Now, that wouldn't appeal to me. And if that's what I needed, someone who's good at WordPress, again, you get what you pay for in a lot of times. But like I say, I would much rather hire someone who says they're worth $20 an hour and then talk them down on a fixed rate project than anything else. So don't hire based solely on price. You do want reviews of their portfolios and samples of work. So when you're either looking through their portfolio, like their profile here, you do want to be able to see their portfolio and hope they've listed some pieces. If I don't see any pieces listed, that usually gives me a heads up that they haven't got much experience or they've got nothing they're actually proud of that they can share. If that's not the case and they just don't have it listed, when you're in a Skype interview, be it text or be it live on a call, you want to see those experience. Now, I'm going to give you another little hint here, or a little tip. When I'm talking to someone, you want to make sure the communication skills are good. It's a critical factor. You want to be able to clearly communicate, especially if you're dealing with an overseas outsourcer. So, having a good line of communication, good spelling, good understanding, and get them on a live call, because you always want to establish that line of communication that you will want to speak to them, to make sure that they give you what you want, that you clearly define your expectations right up front. When we're hiring people, we do that immediately, so that whenever I'm talking to them or my project managers are talking to the team, again, they know that they're going to get a call, they're going to go through it, and you want to make sure that, again, people are articulate, that they're able to understand you, you're able to understand them as much as possible, and make sure that your project's going to come out right. It's just as simple as that. Now, again, if you're thinking about outsourcing in any way, even if it's just to kind of give you a foundation or a framework or something like that, that you just want to get something going, for example, and you've got an idea about what you want, but you don't know how to go about it, fine. Map out the process that should be, and then hire someone to do it. But start small. Start with a fixed rate project. Get your feet wet. Maybe just get a squeeze page built, get it hooked up, get it ready to go, and then you can start doing SEO and stuff like that. Micro outsourcing and micro tasks you can get done on somewhere like Fiverr. No problem at all. That's a great place for $5. Get a little thing done, boom, done. Move on. Get a little thing done, boom, move on. Then scale up. If you actually want something bigger built, then okay, find an outsourcer from Freelancer or Odesk. No problem. Boom, done. And the other thing I would say is tie payment to clearly defined project milestones. Now, I'll give you an example of what I mean, because some people may not know what the milestone is. Say, for example, I've got my 10 squeeze project, okay? So what I will say is, okay, I've got a timeline here. This is when we're done. And this is the start. Okay. I know I've got 10 squeeze pages I want done. Okay, let's pretend this is 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 10. I actually counted it right. Amazing. That was just a guess. So, say for example, at the halfway point, we'll give them 50%. And then at this point, we give them 100%. So we'll set a milestone saying this is, as we're proceeding, this is a milestone right here. Okay. And then at the end is another milestone. So at this point, we'll attach, say, $50 out of the escrow amount right there, and then the remaining 50 out of the budget right there. So they'll know that when they get to a certain point, they're going to get paid. And it's good to use that for motivation, for getting people going and actually committing to completing. Because again, it's like, well, we've had outsourcers who have just vanished on us. I'm not going to BS you. We've had like a very long term project, or I've hired a developer, got them on a project, and then suddenly they've just vanished, or you know, something's gone horribly wrong. They've suddenly fallen down the stairs and broken their leg, or their grandmother fell down the stairs or broke their leg, or some cousin in another part of the country's fallen downstairs and broken their leg. And you get some of the weirdest stories and excuses you'll ever hear. Or it's a holiday and for 3 weeks. It's a 3 weeks cultural holiday, and we don't work for that 3 weeks. And I'm like, okay, you're working on my calendar. No. So it gets very, very tricky sometimes. So another thing we do, especially with, if you're looking at full-time workers, have people that can fill many shoes, multiple points of redundancy. So if you've got someone who knows Photoshop, see if there's anyone else on the team that can do Photoshop. So if you lose one skill set, you have a backup plan. It's another little tip there. But by tying your projects to milestones and your payments to milestones, really does help keep people motivated to keep going. Um, Another thing, and this is something you really, really need to be very, very careful about. Negotiate ownership of the work up front. The last thing you want to do is have someone develop some code and then give it to you or writing, and then you don't own it. They keep the copyright. You want to make sure that you clearly define and get it in writing. Everything must be in writing. You get everything agreed to in writing. And again, Skype chat logs are writing. But again, legally, you need to negotiate the ownership of work up front, and you want to make sure everything is clearly defined and set in writing. Now, one thing I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to give you some of my sample contracts. We've used these before in a previous product, but I'm going to give you a sample non disclosure agreement and a project agreement where you outline the responsibilities, the ownership, and all the legal stuff right up front and get it signed. That's something we do with a lot of our projects and a lot of our team to make sure that when we're going through things, everyone knows exactly who's doing what, why, where, and when. Now, another thing I should also mention is if you're getting a project done, and this is something that I made a huge mistake when I first did one of my first outsourcing projects, is I didn't negotiate what happens for support once the project is complete. Say, for example, there's a huge mistake. Say I got 10 squeeze pages done, and I thought, okay, great, everything looks great. And then I find out there's a huge problem that it's not actually, say, recording the leads in, say, Aweber or RapidMailer. So nothing's getting through. It's bouncing off. I'm losing those leads. Well, okay, if that's a fix, or if there's a problem and there was a problem afterwards, then you need to have that agreed with the outsourcer that for 30 days, if there's a problem with the work, for example, that they'll come back and adjust it. Even if it costs a little more. If it's their mistake, they fix it for free. If it's something that you need tweaking, then there's an option to come back and go ahead and do that. So you need to make sure of that as well. That will make all the difference in the world. So, with that being said, don't be afraid to outsource. Don't be afraid to go. If you identify a hole in your skill set, or there's an issue where you need something done, don't be afraid to go find someone who can do it for you. I mean, there's many. Another thing I should also mention is the difference between an agency and an independent. An independent is just someone who's a single man team and they do just whatever they do. That's it. An agency is usually you'll be contacted by a broker who then has access to hundreds and hundreds of people in different teams, and they will actually match your needs to the teams that they either represent, or they're just a head of one team that's looking and bidding on work and stuff like that all over the place. Now, agencies tend to be more expensive, but again, a more diverse skill set. And they tend to be a lot more organized, again, a lot of redundancy. You're not relying on one person. However, admittedly, a lot of the people we hire are individuals, cheaper, and we have project managers and project centers that we work with. Now, someone was asking about how do we organize our entire teams. We use a couple of tools. One of them is Active Collab, which is a private self-hosted tool. That's a project manager and everything else, and it works on mobile. We organize all of our projects. We keep everyone organized in their different teams using that. Another one, though, which is cheaper, is a system called Basecamp, and that's an online tool where you can literally set it up for free for 60 days, but it is a very great collab place where you can manage your team. no matter where they are in the world, and just rock and roll. It's a great, great service. I've been looking at this to use this for our team, but we've already got active collab, so I don't really need this per se. But my system was very expensive. This is a lot cheaper, and if this existed when I was setting up and researching tools, I would have used this instead. But it's a very, very powerful setup, and again, it's free trial, but you can actually set up $20. That gives you 10 projects, and boom, done. And you just scale up as you need it. But yeah, Active Collab is like $500. So yeah, either way, no problem there. And again, 60 days trial, that's not bad to get started. So that's a way to organize your team as you're scaling up. But start small. Just work with one or two people. And again, these are a couple of sites I use: Freelancer, um, the Odesk, and onlinejobs.ph. This one is actually cool. It's like $47 a month to be a part of it, but again, you can post as many jobs and many things as you like, and then you just hire directly. Now, again, one thing I should also mention is payments. Um, if you're hiring someone, if you want to keep it simple, make sure they can work and be paid by PayPal. Now, Odesk has their own payment system. However, they take 10%. So what you'll find is a lot of um, outsourcers will actually add a 10% fee on a fixed price project because they want you to pay the fee. It's a pain in the ass. Um, if you say $150 for your project, they'll actually get 135 because there's $15 knocked off. So just keep that in mind. If you're working privately, say for example, you hire someone from onlinejobs.ph or directly from another place. Um, if you want to, I suggest working with PayPal, where they can get paid by PayPal. India and the Philippines work with PayPal. Pakistan does not. And I've got a big team in Pakistan, and the only way I can pay them is through Western Union. It's a giant pain in the ass. But I'll do it because I've got a great team there. But because of international banking laws and, for example, US's international relationship with Pakistan right now, it's a little strange. So the banks over there don't want to work with the US. The US doesn't want to work with Pakistani banks. So we have to do Western Union. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but it works. But if you are looking to get started, India and the Philippines tend to be the easiest because they can take straight from PayPal. Now, give you an idea. Say, for example, I was wanting to hire, let me just say, WordPress theme developer. Say, for example, I wanted to find someone who could do that. So, okay. And I want to see if anyone will work with that. Say, now, again, 20,000 PHP. That's Filipino pesos, not the programming language. That's their currency. That's only $500 a month. Okay. And I could hire a full time developer. So you have to be conscious of the exchange rates as well. $20,000 or 20,000 PHP is a very, very, very high wage in the Philippines. For us, not so much. I can actually hire, I mean, here's another one. I've hired people for 8,000 PHP, and that's $200 a month. It's incredible, but it's a different culture, different lifestyle. And again, in terms of your actual getting people doing what you want, um, again, there's many, many people in the world that will work for a lot less than a lot of the developed countries, and they've got incredible skill sets. It's amazing. And again, you can have a very, very powerful team very, very quickly. I just noticed here, we were talking yesterday in a webinar about building apps. There are app builders on here all day long that will build Android apps, iPhone apps. They will build your sites. They will do all your graphics. They'll do all your writing, your customer care. It's absolutely amazing. And again, I am very, very thankful for the internet that's allowed me to um, build a global, uh, basically a global team. Literally 24 hours a day, stuff is always happening. I'll go to bed, assign a couple of tasks, go to bed, and by morning, all of the tasks are done. Gives me a great head start on the day. And I've got virtual assistants, I've got developers, writers, project managers, you name it, we've got it on our team, and it's great. And they are filling in um, all of the spaces. Now, someone asked, because I was talking about using a broker, what's best? Depends on your individual needs. I would say when you're first starting, work with an individual. As you scale up, then work with an agency that might, that works out pretty well. But it really just depends on your needs. Honestly, there's no right or wrong answer to that. The Again, you've got to be a good manager. Whenever you're dealing with outsourcing, you've got to be a good manager. You've got to have understand what you need, and then that way you've got expectations of what you want them to deliver. Okay, well, let's go over to live Q&A, and we'll see where we go from there. Now, Tan, you've got a few questions I noticed you flagged. Let's see. Um, isn't it better to have a lot of specialists? And that's from Nina. Depends on your needs. Specialists cost money. Okay, the more specialized they are, the more expensive. And remember, for a lot of what you do, 80%, 20% of your efforts are going to net 80% of your profit. And it's the same. You only need C to B level work. Um, if you can go A class, you can go absolutely crazy, and that will cause a lot of it'll take longer and it'll cost you more. So I don't worry about things like that per se. Um, Specialists, I do have some very, very good specialists in different areas, and I pay a lot more for them compared to the average, but that's because I know I need that specialty. That makes all the difference in the world. Okay, now, doesn't now Nina's asking a question. Doesn't Odesk cover that issue of ownership? They do, but if you're using um, Odesk. Some other agencies don't, and you have to kind of negotiate that. And also, I don't rely on any one system for that. If I have, I want to make sure it's in writing, and I want it agreed and signed upon between me and the outsourcer. And that way, I cut the crap out the middle and I go direct. And that way, I've got a signed document that says, what the project is, and it's agreed upon between me and the company. Because believe me, you don't want Odesk in the middle of you in a dispute, because it's just going to create more hassle. I'd rather go direct. Now, let's see. Yes, I'm going to. Some of the documents I was talking about that I'll give you are a project agreement and a non disclosure agreement. In other words, um, I own the information. You will not disclose it. You will not use it in a way that I determine as bad before I even provide it to you. It's just a little extra level of protection, and again, making sure everything's clear. Now, let's see what. Okay, if I wanted to have a plugin designed, where would be the best place to go? Honestly, that depends. All three places that I've mentioned here, Freelancer, Odesk, and um, online jobs, are pretty good. My honest preference would be Freelancer. The reason being, and again, a lot of people don't know this, they recently and um, they absorbed a lot of good companies recently, Scriptlance and VWorker, and some of the best developers I've ever worked on were on those platforms. Now they're all part of the freelancer.com community, but you'll find good developers on Odesk as well. Um, I've hired programmers for onlinejobs.ph, and I've not had good experience with Philippine programmers, but that might just be honestly bad luck more than anything else. Um, I had a PHP developer that I paid, or I was going to pay, 25,000 PHP, and we gave him a project, and everything was outlined. We had a long, detailed conversation. We were all on the same page, and then he vanished on me within 3 days, and I never heard from him again. Now, luckily, he didn't get a penny, but after all of the effort and work to go set things up like that, that's a royal pain in the butt to then start from scratch. Someone else asking, what do agencies generally charge as their commission? Um, they are very competitive because they're obviously competing directly with individuals. So they factor that in as part of their price. But in general, when you're dealing with an agency, you'll find they'll talk up your base price, or they'll try to, because whatever they get a cut of. Um, so, say for example, you've listed a project value of say $500, and they'll try and say, "Oh, well, it's this," and some of them, I've had this a few times. It doesn't happen all the time, but they'll say, "Oh, well, actually, that'll we'll have to charge a little more, say $700 because of this, and this." Well, they've just talked themselves up $200, which might be their skim, or they might get a percentage of that, depending on how their relationship is with the company. So they'll get a little bit of a skim and stuff like that. So yeah, that's just different things like that. So okay, let's go live Q&A, which means if you've got a headset and a mic, we can chat. You can ask your question live, and we'll rock and roll from there. So I'm going to go with Don this evening. Don, what's your question this evening? How can I help you, sir?
Yeah, Sean, when you're doing this, do you ever use programs like, say, Time Doctor or something like that to make sure that people are actually working on your project?
That's a very good question. Yes, Active Collab actually has that built into it, and we can track hours that way. However, one thing I'm very good at is time expectations. I'm a very flexible person to work with. Um, I will say, want a project by this date. I don't care when you work on it, as long as it's delivered. And if there's a delay, I want to know why. But one thing, I mean, the a lot of my team, they work all over the world. Most of them work from home, or they work from a small office or something like that. And I just set, okay, this project needs to be done by here. And if it's not, one thing I do is I always say, for example, I've got a $500 project. For every week the project is delayed, I knock $100 off the price. That keeps people motivated. And the other thing I do with longer term people is at the end of the month, I'll offer a bonus. So if, say, for example, I'm hiring someone from the Philippines for, say, $500, what I'll do is I'll say their monthly wage is $400, but if you deliver everything on time and I'm satisfied with the work, I'll give you $100 bonus. Well, I guarantee if you do something like that, um, you'll get good work all the time. And it'll be on time, and you'll find people will bend over backwards to make sure that they keep that going as well. So I don't
Because
mind paying a little more for the quality.
but in my cases like me, some of this stuff I don't really know, have no idea time judgment of how long it should take or anything. That would be another reason why I asked, because that way at least I can start getting an idea on what a job would take too. If I had something to keep track of the hours, and
You
next time I need
raise,
something done, I
yeah,
might have a
you
good
raise a
general
great
idea.
point. You raise a great point. Here's one thing: if you don't know how long a long term task will take, hire someone to do a small part and then pay them for how much they do in, say, 5 days. And you can use that as a tracking idea to figure out how much at full bore someone can do in 5 days. As an example, like data entry for you've got a pet store, for example. Say they were doing data entry and you wanted them to do that. Say they could do 100 products in a day, and you only figure that out by hiring someone to do enter 100 products and then figure out how long it took them. Well, okay, great. Now you figure out 100 in a day. You've got a benchmark then to hire other people to keep doing it, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out, how to get an idea, what should be what, so I know if I'm getting charged what I should be charged, or getting overcharged or undercharging, or whatever way it may be. So
Yeah,
that was what
creating
I
a
was trying.
benchmark is a good way. I mean, we've had to do that with data entry stuff before, and then we might say, okay, well, I've got prime example, the download center in the inner circle. I've got 1 year of products that I want to add. How many products can you add a day? Well, we do this, do this, do this. Okay, now we figure out the way to optimize that process, and I'll do that with an outsourcer, and we get a benchmark, and then we know, okay, this is going to take 3 months to do this project. Great. Okay. Um, so here's what we're going to do. I'll pay you $300 every month, but it needs to be done within 3 months. And boom, there's my benchmarks, there's my milestones, and there's my deadline. And if it takes a little longer, well, that's all well and good, but I'm holding back the final payment until it's complete.
Another
So
question.
getting those benchmarks going is good.
Another question on that too is, like, I know in the Philippines, if you got somebody you've pretty much kept them employed all year, you kind of might have to give them like an extra week's bonus pay or something like that, or something to keep them happy, because it's something to do with their tradition in their country. Is there any other countries that are that way you have to watch for? Or
No, and you know what? That may be their culture, but that's not my culture. What I will do though is, again, like I said, I'll give them a bonus every month. They won't feel that's bad at all, and that helps when you're motivating that way. It's just because that way, they expect an extra week's wages. Well, they're getting that every month if they hit their deadline anyway. So that's the way I get around that. But yeah, whatever their local tradition is, well, I'm not from there. That's the way I see it. It's no, you're working for me, and this is my business culture, and that's it. So
I was wondering if you ever heard about that, because I know some people I've seen in the Philippines, some of the things state something about that, that if you hire them and keep them a year around or something like that, that you pretty much pay them their year work record's a little weird, different to ours, and eventually you end up paying like an extra week or 10 days or something like that more if you keep them employed all year round. So
yeah, I don't worry about that. Honestly, I've heard that. I've never had to worry about that. And again, because I work on a bonus basis, I keep all my staff pretty happy. In fact, I've got a couple of people here I've noticed, so I'm just making sure that they're happy as well. So if they're listening, I hope everyone's happy. There you go.
all right.
Thanks very much, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
But yeah, I want happy workers. Happy workers are good team members, and I don't even consider them workers. I consider them part of the team, part of the family, and that does make all the difference in the world, especially long term. Okay, you're going to have people that you hire just for little bits here and little bits there, and it becomes, it's just like, okay, boom, you're done. Okay, good luck, and I wish you all the best for the future. But if you've got really good people who continuously deliver, I will actually find things for them to do that will help my business, because it will help my business. And I've got a gentleman, for example, who has worked for us for almost 3 years now. I've got people from the Philippines who, like I say, on and off, have worked for us for 3 years and very, very happy. I've actually, one of our close personal friends who has been a friend of my wife's now for, well, more years than they probably care to mention. But now she works with us, and she's absolutely phenomenal. Honestly, it's just transformed a lot of the way that we've done, that we run our business. And when you've got people like that, you want to hold on to them with both hands, because they're absolutely worth their weight in gold and just make working a pleasure. When you've got people who are a right royal pain in the ass, get rid of them, because there's plenty more people out there that will fill that hole very nicely and make life a lot easier. So just to consider that as well. Okay, well, let's see you. We've got any other live questions? We answered so many text questions, we might not actually have any more. Okay, no more actual live questions, which is unusual. We've got so many people here, but I guess we answered so many actual text questions. Tam, is there any I have missed? I see a lot of green flags, no red flags. Okay, well, I guess that's it, guys. Now, let me ask you guys, did you learn something here this evening about outsourcing? Is outsourcing something you've looked at? Okay. And someone's asked, will you be posting the info on the bottom of the webinar? I'll be posting the downloads for the contracts, the project agreements, and stuff like that, and some links to some of the sites that I mentioned here this evening. That are all very good, and that's basically that'll work. Okay, so what we'll do from here is, I guess we'll wrap it up and just doing a quick scan to make sure I'm not missing anyone with a live question, and we'll rock on from here. We will do this again next week at Wednesday, 6 p.m., and I'll get this replay up as soon as we can. So with that being said, take it easy. See you next week, and we'll have some more fun. Until then, take care.